"Tess," he said. She slackened speed without looking around. "Tess," he repeated. "It is I, Alec d'Urberville." She then looked back at him, and he came up. "I see it is," she answered coldly. "Well, is that all? Yet I deserve no more. Of course," he added with a slight laugh, "there is something of the ridiculous to your eyes in seeing me like this, but I must put up with that. I heard you had gone away. Nobody knew where. Tess, you wonder why I have followed you?" "I do rather, and I would that you had not, with all my heart." "Yes, you may well say it," he returned grimly, as they moved onward together, she with unwilling tread. "But don't mistake me. I beg this because you may have been led to do so in noticing, if you did notice it, how your sudden appearance unnerved me down there. It was but a momentary faltering, and considering what you have been to me, it was natural enough. But Will helped me through it, though perhaps you think me a humbug for saying it, and immediately afterwards I felt that of all the persons in the world whom it was my duty and desire to save from the wrath to come, sneer if you like, the woman whom I had so grievously wronged was that person. I have come with that sole purpose in view, nothing more." There was the smallest vein of scorn in her words of rejoinder. "Have you saved yourself? Charity begins at home, they say." "I have done nothing," he said indifferently. "Heaven, as I have been telling my hearers, has done all. No amount of contempt that you can pour upon me, Tess, will equal what I have poured upon myself, the old Adam of my former years. Well, it is a strange story, believe it or not, but I can tell you the means by which my conversion was brought about, and I hope you will be interested enough at least to listen. Have you ever heard the name of the parson of Emminster? You must have done so. Old Mr. Clare, one of the most earnest of his school, one of the few intense men left in the church, not so intense as the extreme wing of Christian believers with which I have thrown in my lot, but quite an exception among the established clergy, the younger of whom are gradually attenuating the true doctrines by their sophistries, till they are but a shadow of what they were. I only differ from him on the question of church and state, the interpretation of the text, 'Come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord.' That's all. He is one who, I firmly believe, has been the humble means of saving more souls in this country than any other man you can name. You've heard of him?" "I have," she said. "He came to Trantridge 2 or 3 years ago to preach on behalf of some missionary society, and I, wretched fellow that I was, insulted him when, in his disinterestedness, he tried to reason with me and show me the way. He did not resent my conduct. He simply said that some day I should receive the first fruits of the Spirit, and that those who came to scoff sometimes remained to pray. But there was a strange magic in his words. They sank into my mind. But the loss of my mother hit me most, and by degrees I was brought to see the daylight. Since then my one desire has been to hand on the true view to others, and that is what I was trying to do today, though it is only lately that I have preached hereabout. The first months of my ministry have been spent in the north of England among strangers, where I preferred to make my earliest clumsy attempts so as to acquire courage before undergoing that severest of all tests of one's sincerity, addressing those who have known one and have been one's companions in the days of darkness. If you could only know, Tess, the pleasure of having a good slap at yourself, I'm sure—" "Don't go on with it!" she cried passionately, as she turned away from him to a stile by the wayside, on which she bent herself. "I can't believe in such sudden things. I feel indignant with you for talking to me like this, when you know what harm you've done me. You and those like you take your fill of pleasure on earth by making the life of such as me bitter and black with sorrow, And then it's a fine thing when you've had enough of that to think of securing your pleasure in heaven by becoming converted. Out upon such, I don't believe in you. I hate it." "Tess," he insisted, "don't speak so. It came to me like a jolly new idea, and you don't believe me. What don't you believe?" "Your conversion, your scheme of religion." "Why?" She dropped her voice. "Because a better man than you does not believe in such." "What a woman's reason! Who is this better man?" "I cannot tell you." "Well," he declared, a resentment beneath his words seeming ready to spring out at a moment's notice, "God forbid that I should say that I am a good man, and you know I don't say any such thing. I am new to goodness, truly, but newcomers see furthest sometimes." "Yes," she replied sadly, "but I cannot believe in your conversion to a new spirit. Such flashes as you feel, Alec, I fear don't last." Thus speaking, she turned from the stile over which she had been leaning and faced him, whereupon his eyes, falling casually upon the familiar countenance and form, remained contemplating her. The inferior man was quiet in him now, but it was surely not extracted, nor even entirely subdued. "Don't look at me like that," he said abruptly. Tess, who had been quite unconscious of her action and mien, instantly withdrew the large dark gaze of her eyes, stammering with a flush, "I beg your pardon." And there was revived in her wretched sentiment, come to her before, that in inhabiting the fleshly tabernacle with which nature had endowed her, she was somehow doing wrong. "No, no, don't beg my pardon. But since you wear a veil to hide your good looks, why don't you keep it down?" She pulled down the veil, saying hastily, "It was mostly to keep off the wind." "It may seem harsh of me to dictate like this," he went on, "but it is better that I should not look too often on you. It might be dangerous." "Shh!" said Tess. "Well, women's faces have had too much power over me already for me not to fear them. An evangelist has nothing to do with such as they, and it reminds me of the old times that I would forget." After this their conversation dwindled to a casual remark now and then as they rambled onward, Tess inwardly wondering how far he was going with her, and not liking to send him back by positive mandate.